You're listening to the Great Canadian Aftermarket Podcast, brought to you by the publishers of IndieGarage and JobberNation. Connect with us online at IndieGarage.ca and JobberNation.ca, a brand of chat integrated media.
Hello, everyone. It's Andrew Ross, your host. We're located in Ontario, and Ontario right now is in the midst of what they're calling a provincial shutdown. Well, that means a lot of added restrictions, even for essential businesses like automotive aftermarket service outlets. One of the measures that's come in has been some restrictions on the number of people you can have in your business. In a departure from previously where it was nobody allowed in whatsoever, there are now restrictions to reduce the number of people you have in your business and to obviously put lots of controls on it. This is on top of some of the other measures that a lot of businesses have had previously. Now, with me today is Paul Reed, the Showroom Guy, who does a lot of work with retailers and service businesses across the country in putting together their waiting areas, showrooms, as well as stock areas, kind of full thing. He also happens to be a regular contributor to us here at Chat Media. So welcome, Paul.
Hi, Andrew. Thanks for having us on.
Oh, no, my pleasure. Now, one of the things I've noticed is that a number of service businesses, I mean, as we all know, they don't all have really voluminous waiting areas.
Yeah.
One of the things I've noticed is that some of them have been posting through social media that they've actually closed off their waiting rooms and customer areas entirely. Is that really the guidance, or is there some leeway here, or what's your experience and what are you hearing?
Well, what I've seen so far, I visit a few shops. Some places will have, you can go in 1, 2 at a time, even though they'll have 20 or 30 feet distance between the front door and the counter. So they allow people to go in, pick up automotive parts and out. Some have just, have, what they call it, pickup delivery. And then I was at a tire facility the other day, and their front counter is probably 7 to 10 feet from the front door, or actually probably less, 8 feet from the front door. And I was allowed in, drop off my vehicle, sign the paperwork, and then I had to leave. I wasn't allowed waiting inside. So I'm guessing it's because of 6-foot rule, distance-wise, that they just can't accommodate it. And within the space from the counter to the front door and then off to the sides, there was a little coffee machine that was off. They had 2 chairs that used to be out for seating, and they were stacked up in the corner, so they didn't want anybody sitting there. So I guess it's just being preventive. You don't know. They're not checking temperatures coming in. If they are allowing you to wait, they would have to check your temperature, ask you all the questions, have you sign a questionnaire if you've had any symptoms of COVID before you could sit in that area. So I think they're just limiting themselves to those, sticking to the guidance rules. And the fellow at the counter was very concerned that if I stayed in there too long, because I said, no, it's kind of freezing outside, can I come in and out? He said, come in and out, but he said, if you see anybody coming, please step out right away, as if you're just signing the paperwork, because they will get a fine for you being inside.
Right. Yeah, no, obviously we want everybody to err on the side of caution. We would never want to suggest that anybody put themselves, whether it's their customers or their staff, which is obviously a concern too, at risk. Yeah. At the same time, we don't want to unnecessarily burden the customer. We want to obviously obey the guidelines in whatever business we're in and make sure that we're being safe and cautious. But in some parts of the country, it can get pretty cold, and there's an impact there. When it's minus 40 out, and you want to minimize the kind of downside for customers too. I mean, often you have a long-standing relationship with them, even if they understand it. If it's not necessary for them to be standing outside for 20 minutes or a half an hour as you cycle their vehicle through service or whatever it is, right? You want to avoid that, right?
Yeah. I think you're going to see more, or I would assume they would just bring in more shuttles have an extra shuttle. If they have one now, have an extra shuttle to take people home, make it more convenient for the customer. Because like you just mentioned, you don't want to have your staff infected by any kind of virus like the COVID, that they're going to get ill. And then now you're down a couple of men or one person, and now you can't even service a customer.
Right, right, yeah. So it's a real balancing act here. Now, I think that, well, I would like to think that by this point we all recognize that this is going to be quite a long process. The
Yes.
practices and procedures that we adopt and are continuing to adopt now, they're going to be with us for a while, either by edict or by just ensuring a real comfort level with
Yeah.
with the customer base.
Yeah.
Now you do a lot of work, again, the showroom guy, putting together
Yeah.
showrooms, putting together these customer waiting areas, these designs.
Yeah.
We were talking before our session today about one of the elements that you're probably not going to see in waiting rooms going
Yeah.
forward. Talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Yeah, it just dawned on me the other day because we're designing a new program or catalog for one of our clients, and we've always designed coffee tables for our clients, so all branded for them. Wi-Fi bistro tables, stuff, things like that, components that go into the showroom program, and we can't do that anymore. Even though we have them there, but they can't be used because they're used to hold. People leave coffee mugs behind, coffee cups, but the famous thing is a magazine. And the magazine will go like the dodo bird. It just won't be there anymore because it'll hold bacteria. So,
Right.
Have 5 or 6 people reading it during the day, transmission is highly, highly likely. So that'll go away. So yeah, we won't be doing magazine racks. We won't be doing coffee tables per se. We'll just design more entertainment areas that we'll centralize it where things like coffee stations, as we've done, we call them entertainment units. So TVs placed there, coffee units, espresso machines, things like that, all in one area, so it can be wiped down by staff.
Right. Now, this is a big change. I mean, for a lot of shops out there, that stack of magazines has been kind of a central point of
Yeah.
waiting areas. I mean, for good and ill.
Yeah.
But if that goes away, I mean, are there other options? Not everybody shows up ready with their laptop or whatever. Is there? Are there? Sometimes the programming on the flat screen in the corner might not be what somebody wants to look at. Is there
Sure.
other options that you're looking at suggesting to?
Yeah, I suggest my customers to have tablets.
Okay.
Load them up with your own media if you like, or videos. You can load them up, or just have them have an open password for your Wi-Fi so they can go into YouTube or do whatever web browsing they'd like to do, and that way you can control it so it's wiped down prior to handing it to the customer. And when they leave, you give them back the keys, they're giving back the tablet, and then you're wiping it down for the next customer. But you're in control of that tablet. No different than your debit machine or anything else that should be sanitized after every use.
Right. Of course. Now, as we move out of this, there's going to be opportunities to look at some of these design elements as we've been talking about, and so we did. You and I did talk about this. Now, tell us a little bit on, for those of you who are watching this on our video podcast, you'll be seeing a rather nice showroom office looking area with office chairs or sort of waiting room style chairs and a couple of 2-seat couches and some things like that. But each of these seating areas is surrounded by a barrier that the lower half is a wood grain and the top half is a clear plexiglass. Paul, talk a little bit about what we're looking at here, and for those on the audio podcast, I think in your mind's eye you should be able to think about it. I do notice that in this rendering there are coffee tables.
Yes, yeah, that on the left of that image is a coffee table. That's for design purposes, just to show that, you know, in certain environments they can be taken care of. But no magazines, obviously, just a little plant there. The coffee table can be wiped down daily. And then there's, you know, we didn't get into it, but there's products that will last up to 30 days that people touching it that'll constantly kill COVID or any other viruses. There's chemicals out there, two-step process that they can clean the area with.
Okay.
But in this image, you'll see, as you mentioned, so the wood grain can be changed. That element we can do to customers' branding. We can brand the customer's logo on it. We can do it in white, blues, you know, different wood grains,
Right.
different laminates, and then the plexi can go clear or frosted, give more privacy. But it's again to contain. It's almost like you're putting people in bubbles. Let's just contain things. If someone's going to cough, it contains it to that zone more freely.
Right, right. So, and, you know, I've pulled up a different image here, which just shows like a one chair and then a love seat or a two-seater and then a one-seater with just vertical dividers along the same lines. You know, we can very easily see how this could be something that you know, changing the style of the chairs and whatnot, but in a waiting room to provide that separation from other customers. I can really easily see how this would be something that would help build customers' comfort level in a waiting area, which is kind of the plan, right?
Yes, yeah. So same idea where it's a divider goes in between, and we're designing that into our service counters now too. So if you have a, you know, a 4-foot, 6-foot, or 8-foot counter, we'll have dividers in between with a laminate panel coming up in between, then a plexiglass. So it'll divide the workers from each other, and then a plexiglass in front that'll divide the consumer. So again, puts that the service representative in his own little bubble or her bubble, and then the customer on their side. So it protects everybody.
Right,
and
right,
this
right.
is going to be, you know, it's going to be the norm for years.
Yeah, well, that's, I guess that was, you know, what I was going to get at is that this is, you know, again, a number of, because this, I mean, obviously this came upon us unexpectedly, and a number of operations and business owners, you know, they, you know, obviously went out, you know, they put together their own kind of solutions. They may not be a long-term solution. There's something that they, you know, get some plexiglass from the local hardware, big box retailer or something, you know, and kind of put it up, built some brackets, hung it from the ceiling. Some of those solutions, just simply because they were, some of them are great. I've seen some are, you know, really beautifully put together, but some were done quite quickly.
Some are really nice.
But some of them done quite quickly, and you know that, you know, over the course of months and years, they're you know, they're not designed to, you know, with the kind of the robustness.
Yeah, they're going to break down, and
exactly. So you know,
so you want to use a quality product. Yeah, we're again, we use a high grade of plexiglass or Lexan into it. In some cases, it's, you know, tempered glass in certain areas that we'll do. We're just designing a store in Quebec, a small showroom, and we've got a small glass wall framed out in wood, but the glass is, you know, laminated glass in between that separates the clients from the advisors. It's a small area, so we just keep it open, but, you know, the safe where it just puts a barrier, a nicely designed barrier between them.
Right. Yeah,
we're doing a lot more of that.
Yeah, I guess this is the thing now that, you know, we look at it and we look down the road and we're you know, thinking that this is going to be with us for you know, quite a while. I mean, we're coming up on, well, we're coming up on a you know,
a year,
really it's a year since this really started in you know, you know, although it's a, you know, a little bit less than that, and when we really started to see the impact and made, you know, put measures in place in Canada. You know, we're going to be at least, you know, as you say, on years, both from a pragmatic and practical standpoint, as well as the psychology of it, right?
Yeah. It's here for a while. Whether the you know, once COVID's, we have the vaccines, COVID's sort of eradicated, there's always something down the road, right? So being prepared is the best solution. So I don't, to me, I have no problem wearing a mask. I'm sure some people do, but usually every winter I get a cold, and knock wood, I haven't had a cold this year, but I'm sure it's because I've protected myself more for COVID than a common cold. But I think that's where we're going to see going future, is protect ourselves against these germs and viruses. And I think it's, to me, there's the good out of it, of COVID. Unfortunately, there's a lot of lives have been lost, and sad for those families and those loved ones. But the good out of it is that we're thinking smarter going forward. People are taking it more serious going forward. In our designs are smarter, more protection, thinking of, like we were saying at the beginning of the podcast, is magazines. I love magazines. I love digital, but I really love to have the feel of magazine going through it. I can skip back. It's just something I grew up with, since I was a kid. Seeing that going away and having those magazines at the barber shop piled up. Not that I have to go often with my hairline, but I do love the magazines there, but they're all gone now, right? So
Right.
you have to replace it with digital, which is a great medium.
Yeah. So exactly, and these are all things. Again, the industry has proven itself to be incredibly responsible and responsive.
Yeah.
But as we look ahead, there are investments in thought and design, and wanting to make sure that we get it right.
Yeah.
For the long haul, right?
Yeah.
Making staff feel comfortable in an environment, making the customers feel comfortable in an environment, and having that ability, or the recognition that we're going to have various levels. I mean, right now,
Yeah.
as I said, in Ontario, we're on a shutdown, so there's additional restrictions over what had been in place before.
Yeah.
Those will, I am told, be lifted when the case counts come down.
Yeah.
But it's quite possible that they will be, reimposed later at some point, or different at different levels. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we're all getting used to this now. We wait for the weekly
Yeah.
announcements, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Personally, I thought they should have shut down at Christmas and New Year's, but like just shut everything down, get everybody to stay home. I mean, it's hard, but at least you're safe and continue business, because retail is always slow during the Christmas weeks. The couple weeks before starts slowing down, and a couple weeks back after New Year's, it takes to get everything back in gear for a lot of businesses. But then we woke up to came into the new year with a shutdown in Quebec and Ontario.
Sure. Yeah.
In most provinces.
Most provinces are having it, as we speak here. I mean, Alberta is still in an extended set of restrictions,
Yeah.
with no word on when that extension will be ending.
Yeah.
Ontario has been given its benchmarks to meet, and we're a ways from that. Quebec is under a more severe set of
Strict.
restrictions. These
Yeah.
things all have an impact on people's lives. I know we all look forward to a more normal experience in
Yeah.
our workplaces, in our lives, whether it's shopping, or as we obviously have our primary concern here, getting that necessary automotive service.
Yeah.
For a lot of shops, in previous conversations, because they are very community-based businesses, and one of the few kinds of businesses that's been open the whole time, has been operating the whole time through this as an essential business. Some customers have just wanted to come in
Yeah. Yes.
because they haven't been able to talk to people.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
yes, they have they have the concierge service who will come get you, and they're like, no, I want to come in, I want to see you.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so there is that element as well to consider moving forward. We want to make sure that those customers who do want to come in are safe, that the staff is safe.
Yes.
Obviously, we respect all of the public health rules.
Yeah.
Most have a similar idea about having the right signage, putting a sign on the door of how many people are allowed in any business at any given time. You have to monitor that. You have to do all these things, but as the restrictions lift, you still want to have a safe environment, as we've been talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's and going back to where you're saying that there's still some clients that say, oh, no, I'll come in. That's usually I find is, I call them the old school, my generation, that just used to that. They're not used to buying things off Amazon or having everything being delivered. For the younger generation, that's their norm. Their
Right.
norm is, being able to order everything online. Just to jump in, as I've got a client in Gatineau, Quebec, that has a large retail space, but he says he has very few clients walking in, but he has 32 little compact cars on the road delivering parts, and they do millions a year.
Right.
But that's his norm. He doesn't have a lot of customers coming in, so he's when COVID hit, he's already prepared. Like
Right.
he's been delivering that process for years. Has been very successful at it, and I think that's what you're going to see, where the parts retailers are going to be, they're obviously been delivering and having, what's the word, when the people come in and curbside pickup.
Curbside pickup, yeah.
Curbside pickup, exactly. That's the norm now, right? So my hat's off to those that had that in place then and then put it in place now. But it's nothing to just put an extra body. It gets an extra person employed, because a lot of unemployment due to COVID, obviously, but gets an extra person employed, gives your customer, you're providing a better service for your customer, that dropping it off to his facility. So now his shop becomes more efficient because he's not losing a person to go out and pick up a part, losing that time, crucial time that they could bill out if they're doing auto repairs or just doing parts retailing.
Right.
So,
right.
yeah, it's everything's changed. Obviously, it's in our world for me to design a store. There's a lot more things to think about, and we started. Funny enough, we started doing tablets and things like that, and not having as many, say, parts visible. I'm one, as I've said to before, and in the write-ups in the magazine, is I hate clutter.
Right.
So I don't need, going into a parts store and seeing, probably I've seen some parts stores that'll have 200 different types of lenses for a flasher lens or a housing,
Right.
when all you have to do is push the brand and say you have them and have them stored in behind. Makes it more efficient for the front, and then it's just have them easily, readily available, parts on time. But the old school is have everything out front and piled up, but you're going to have less walk-ins now. So
right. Well, that's it. So everybody's trying to kind of pivot, to use an overused word these days, and do the right things. Certainly at the service level, they see the customer, the consumer, more than
yes.
Any other segment, and they want to keep them safe. They want to keep their staff safe, but there are things that they can put in place, as we've talked about. So for those out there who are in the midst of restrictions, it's probably a good advice to kind of think about that waiting room area. It's not going to be closed forever.
Nope.
But it will be forever changed.
Yes.
And it is something to think about. Paul, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
And everybody out there, be safe, be strong. We will see you next time.
Thanks again.
You're listening to the Great Canadian Aftermarket Podcast, brought to you by the publishers of IndieGarage and JobberNation. Connect with us online at IndieGarage.ca and JobberNation.ca, a brand of chat integrated media.